The Undead Dilemma, A Tale of Survival. The putrid stench of decay hung heavy in the air, suffocating me as I stumbled through the dimly lit hallway. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead cast eerie shadows that danced on the cracked off-white walls. I could hear the faint guttural moans of the undead echoing through the corridor, reminding me of the horrors that lurked in the darkness. My heart raced and my palms were slick with sweat as I clutched my blood-soaked baseball bat. The world had fallen into chaos. The outbreak had turned our once bustling city into a nightmare. I wasn't alone. A group of survivors had banded together in this crumbling hospital. Our leader, Sarah, was a determined woman with a fierce resolve, but her decisions often weighed heavily on us all. The hallway stretched out before me, offering three ominous options. The first door was to my left, half open and creaking. The second, directly ahead, was slightly ajar, revealing a faint glimmer of moonlight on the other side. The third was to the right, and it stood closed and foreboding, its rusted handle covered in dried blood. "Listen up," Sarah whispered, her eyes scanning the group. "We need to find supplies, and the exit is our only hope. Split into groups and be careful. Choose a path and stick to it." I felt a heavy weight in my chest as I considered my choices. I crept toward the left door. It was the closest, and maybe there was safety behind it. I pushed it open slowly and was greeted by a dimly lit room. Tables and chairs were scattered around, the remnants of a cafeteria. But the scent of death was overwhelming, and a horde of zombies turned their rotting faces toward me. My heart sank as I realized the left door had been a death trap. I barely managed to slam it shut in time, retreating back into the hallway. I cautiously stepped towards the second door, the one that seemed to lead outside. Maybe freedom was within reach. I pushed it open gently, revealing a fire escape bathed in silvery moonlight. A ladder led down to a seemingly safe rooftop. Before I could make my escape, I heard Sarah's voice in my earpiece, her tone filled with desperation. "We need you. We found supplies in the cafeteria. Get back here now." I could escape to the rooftop and leave my group behind, taking my chances in the outside world. I could return to the group, passing up a chance at freedom to support them. I could ignore Sarah's plea and press on alone, forsaking my comrades to secure my own survival. I couldn't resist the allure of freedom. I dashed up the fire escape, each rung taking me closer to what I hoped was safety. As I reached the rooftop, the cool night air enveloped me. But my elation was short-lived. A moment later, I heard the clattering of footsteps behind me. The rooftop was not deserted, it was crawling with zombies. My heart pounded as I turned to see the horde closing in on me. With a surge of adrenaline, I sprinted to the edge of the rooftop, leaping across the narrow alleyway to the adjacent building. My fingertips grazed the ledge, and with one final desperate effort, I pulled myself to safety. From the other side, I watched as the rooftop I'd just escaped became a feeding ground for the undead. My choice for freedom had cost me dearly, and I couldn't shake the guilt of abandoning my group. Reluctantly, I closed the door to the rooftop and descended the fire escape to rejoin the group in the hospital. They had found supplies, but it had come at a cost. Some members were injured, and Sarah's face was etched with worry and fatigue. She nodded at me as I entered, acknowledging my return. We shared the supplies and treated the wounded. Days turned into weeks as we continued to scavenge and fortify our makeshift sanctuary. Sarah's leadership held us together, and though we faced hardships and close calls, we managed to survive as a team. My decision to stay had preserved the bonds of camaraderie, and the guilt that had threatened to consume me faded with each day that passed. Ignoring Sarah's plea, I chose to press on alone, driven by a selfish desire for freedom. I left the rooftop behind, descending the fire escape and navigating the darkened hospital. The silence was eerie, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. But that tranquility was short-lived. As I turned a corner, I found myself face to face with a horde of zombies. Panic surged through me as they closed in from all sides. The narrow hallway offered no escape, and I swung my baseball bat with all my might, taking down a few before I was overwhelmed. My reckless choice had led me to my demise. The last thing I saw were their rotting faces and their cold, lifeless hands clawing at me as I became one of them. The consequences of my choice were grim, and as I joined the ranks of the undead, I couldn't help but wonder if my selfishness had been worth the price of my humanity.